Okay, folks, we've just got a few more seconds before 8:05. We hope you are in the mood for an amazing discussion about Roger Corman.
We are. Aha.
There we are.
Ah.
Oh, just going to adjust this. And we are live on all
Five.
platforms. Hello.
Firing on all thrusters.
That's right. Hello and welcome to episode 26 of Fright Lounge, the show in which the best horrorologists in town will discuss horror in depth and get a conversation going for the seasoned viewer, as well as helping introduce newbies to the horror genre. I am your host, Rigor from Then Is Now podcast, The East Meets the West, and the Cult Movie Lounge. And before the other guys introduce themselves, I'm going to show you I am wearing my safari jacket in honor of tonight's topic, which is, of course, the late legendary Roger Corman.
Absolutely stunning. Stunning.
Stunning. Just the only word for it.
Oh, yes, like him.
Tens across the board.
All
That's
right,
right.
your turn.
Oh, it's my turn. Hi, I'm Bill Van Ryn from Fanzine Drive-In Asylum, Facebook page Groovy Doom, and the Drive-In Asylum double feature live streaming on Facebook and YouTube.
Rock and roll.
Down below me is, of course, regular.
Oh, hey, I'm Michael. I'm here. I'm in the lower left screen.
And then across from him is Dantes Alexander, the Prince Regent of electronic dance music.
Here, my fair subjects. Does that make me the Paul Lynde of this gig? I mean, what?
Probably, yes.
Yes, and it's an honor because Paul Lynde was a genius.
It was awesome. I love Paul Lynde.
Uh,
Oh my god. So last episode we successfully streamed on X, formerly known as Twitter. So we're keeping it going and we are live on there today. So if you want to comment there, you can comment there. You can comment on our YouTube page and you can also comment on our Facebook page for Fright Lounge.
Sweet.
And one thing I wanted to ask you, nice folks out there, if you could put likes on our stuff and if you could subscribe to our YouTube page, that would be awesome. And don't forget, you got to hit that little bell at the top to get all notifications when we post things. And that'll help us grow the channel and we can put out more videos. So I last episode I mentioned we were having a logo contest and we still are. I'm working on that. The wife and I are in the middle of buying a house right now, so that's taken up a lot of our time between that and work and regular family stuff. So I will get to the contest hopefully by next month and you guys can pick a new logo for us. So all right,
Sweet.
so why don't we do this before we begin? Why don't Bill, why don't you tell us where the folks can find you online?
You can purchase my quarterly fanzine called Drive-In Asylum on the Etsy shop Groovy Doom. Or if you happen to be in New York, just hop into Forbidden Planet, that infamous comic store in New York, and it's there. And yeah, you can also watch my weekly live stream show, the Drive-In Asylum double feature, on the Groovy Doom YouTube channel or the Groovy Doom Facebook page.
And this is Drive-In Asylum.
Thank you for those visuals too. You'd think I would bring something like that, right?
All right, and
It
Dante,
makes me want to watch. Oh, go ahead.
sorry.
I was gonna say it makes me want to watch the movie Forbidden Planet again now that he mentioned the name of the comic store.
Oh, I love that. I love Forbidden Planet. So
Yeah.
Dante, why don't you tell us where the folks can find you online?
Facebook.com/Dantes Alexander me or Instagram.com/Dantes Alexander. Dantes on Spotify, all of that cool music, amazing stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, folks, tonight we are honoring legendary late filmmaker Roger Corman, whose filming acumen and sort of thrifty approach to filmmaking had changed Hollywood forever. Before we jump into it, I do want to explain that right now here in Maine, there's like this severe storm going on, and just before the show, I got a tornado warning. So if the power should go out, if I start to think the power is going out, I'm going to transfer control to Bill, and hopefully we'll be able to continue for another 40 minutes or so.
that'll be my crash course in how to actually host one of these Zoom events. So we may not return
Oh
at all.
my God. I feel like we're behind the scenes on the Challenger launch.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jesus.
no. Good Lord.
I was
Hey,
thinking we were on the ship, the 3-hour tour ship from Gilligan's Island.
there
You
you
know, that
go,
wouldn't be bad though.
We don't know what's going to hit us.
The island ruled. I would have stayed there if I was
Yeah,
them.
yeah, I totally would have stayed
As
there.
long as I had access to Marianne, man, I would have been all set.
Right? They
She
had
was
bamboo
adorable.
cars there. What did they need anything else for?
Right?
That's
Seriously.
true.
God. And the Howells
Uh,
had more clothes than, yeah, a 3-hour tour would
I
necessitate.
know, right? Exactly. They were packed for like 6 months in the Europe.
Oh my
Uh,
God. All right. So let me, I'm just going to read a little brief thing I kind of pulled together from online stuff about Roger Corman as to who exactly he was. So if you're tuning in, maybe you've heard of him, but maybe you didn't quite know a lot about him, or maybe you haven't heard about him. And now's your chance to learn. So he was born in 1926, Roger William Corman, which is weird because my name is Roger William Froylan. Um, Roger Corman was an American film director, producer, and actor, often known as the king of the B movies. His younger brother, Gene, produced numerous films, sometimes in collaboration with Roger. In 1948, he worked briefly at U.S. Electrical Motors in Los Angeles, but his career in engineering lasted only 4 days. He started working on Monday and quit on Thursday, telling his boss, "I've made a terrible mistake." He studied engineering at Stanford University and became a messenger at 20th Century Fox, where he got like 32.50 a week. And but
Hey,
while he
that was
was
a
there,
lot of buying power back then.
Yeah.
I know, things were sold for a penny. Um, so he sold it while he was working as a messenger at Fox. He sold his first story to Allied, which I think is Allied International. And with that money he made, he created his own production company. In 64, Roger Corman became the youngest filmmaker to have a retrospective at the Cinémathèque Française, as well as in the British Film Institute and the Museum of Modern Art. He was the co-founder of New World Pictures, what the heck was that? The founder of New Concord, and was a longtime member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. In 2009, he was awarded an Academy Honorary Award for his rich engendering of film and filmmakers. This guy has launched the careers of several Hollywood legends, and we'll go into that in a little bit later on. And lastly, I just wanted to say one last thing. The IMDb basically credits Corman with 55 directed films, and he produced 385 films between 1954 and 2008. A lot of his films were uncredited producer or executive director, which was, I guess that was, it was for some reason when he was running New World Pictures, that was common. From 70 to 83. And then Corman also has significant credits as a writer and an actor. So we've got a list of films here. We've all kind of got our own little picks here, but Bill, I feel like you have a lot to say about Roger Corman. So why don't you just jump in and tell us your thoughts?
Um, I don't know. There's like a strange sort of alchemy that goes into a figure like Roger Corman because he's legendary and he's revered. He's looked back on, I think, very fondly by people who worked in the motion picture industry. And yet there was also like a very seedy side to what he was doing, at least early on in his career, and really up until the end. Um, he was just in it to make money. And he was part of, this school of exploitation filmmaking where they were going to just like, put something in theaters. Like it was kind of crystallized by American International Pictures, like, those guys. And they were associated with Roger Corman because it was just all intended to make as much money with as little budget as possible. And it turned out that the way that you could do that was just by directing your motion picture at something shocking and a certain demographic of young people usually that went to these movies. And that's looked back on fondly today, but it was not respectable at the time, I dare say. There was like the film industry looked at that sort of like, like you're not really making quality motion pictures. This isn't like, terms of endearment that you're working on. So there's that part of Roger Corman too, and that has minimized to an incredible degree now. Like nobody talks about that part of it and how he was not. He was sort of like, I don't want to say a joke because that sounds disrespectful, but it was like film critics would, just sort of roll their eyes when you were talking about a Roger Corman movie, and there was that element too. But even then, there was a certain quality to Roger Corman because he was discovering people like Francis Ford Coppola. I mean, he really. I think Roger, you mentioned that he got an award for nurturing the careers of other filmmakers and directors because he was also very generous in that way. He gave a lot of people a big break when they needed it, and it fostered the growth of this entire aspect of filmmaking. So I think Roger Corman, when we say that he's legendary, that's probably what people are referring to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
especially, we'll get into the films that we've watched in a little bit, but the ones I rewatched, I forgot how awesome they were. He was a really good filmmaker to begin with, even though he has that reputation. So Mike and Dantes, what did you guys know about Corman coming into this? Mike Hill, you go first.
I knew of him because I heard his name and I heard him talked about, and I knew vaguely that he made like cheap horror movies at one point in the past. But I didn't really know a lot about him as a person. The or of his career either. Until you, Raj, recommended that we watch something on Tubi called what was it called? The
He was the Pope of
Pope
Pop
of
Culture. It
Pop
was
culture or
Roger
something to that.
Corman, the Pope of Pop Culture.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like roughly an hour long. If you're at all interested in finding out more about him, just in general, I recommend watching that on Tubi. That really gave me a lot of information that I didn't have before. I didn't know that he made things other than cheesy horror movies. I didn't know that he made westerns. I didn't know that he made movies that, were more exploitation movies and movies that were trying to get a message across about, social issues and stuff. So he had a lot of variety. Um, but beyond that, I didn't really know much about him going in. And I only had time to watch 4 of his movies that I just sort of picked at random this week, but I'll probably continue to watch more and more and more as time goes on.
Cool. Dantes, what about you?
The ironic part about Roger is he's almost like McDonald's. He's always around, even if you don't want to taste it or consume it, it's just always around. Even if you don't know or have never tasted McDonald's, you know about it just because it's a part of Americana. And I kind of feel like that with him because I honestly thought I did not know who he was until I actually went. And I'm like, oh, shit, I do know who he is. I have watched, Pit and the Pendulum. I have watched, of course, Silence and the Lambs, and a couple of other films. And I just had no idea that was him. And it's shocking almost today to think that filmmakers, I won't get into, I'm trying to be better about not naming names because I obviously want my acting career to continue to flourish. So I won't name studio names, but it behooves me that studios today cannot make a good film, for less than 14 million, and that's considered a modern, indie budget or whatever. And this man, made Little Shop of Horrors, and that film to me, if I'm rambling, please shut me up.
Go for
That
it.
film to me is like such a cultural cult classic. The first one was fucking great. Can I curse on this gig?
Of
Okay,
course.
is
You can.
that
We have a minimum quota, so.
Okay, all right, good. The first one was really good, and it had like, all of these social undertones that you really couldn't talk about, so much. And then, you fast forward to the remake again, which again, why I said, I had always known who he was. or had been aware of his work partially because of, Little Shop of Horrors. And that movie brought in, a whole new generation, of Roger Corman fans like I. And then, as I continued to pull the banana peel back, maybe that wasn't a good reference.
How about an onion?
Onion, yeah, maybe an onion. As
Mm.
I continued to pull the onion back, I was just really shocked. I mean, because he's been, a part of Americana now and I was shocked to find out that he had, passed. And I was talking, before, we started the show, I mentioned, a friend, who had the privilege of working with him on a Rose of Harlem. I think it's like a Turner Classic movie. I think that it was like 96. And he just always, for me, even though I didn't know him, he always just seemed like a heavy influence, possibly even for like John Waters. I mean, I mean, I don't know, but great guy. I knew him, didn't really know him, and I'm always glad to, learn more about people that I thought I didn't know. So this was yeah, okay. I talked about Little Shop of Horrors. I'll be quiet. I actually watched 5 films this week.
Awesome. All right, Bill, why don't you do you have give us your top picks, whether it's 5, 10, whatever.
It's so hard. I mean,
Oh, right.
there are so many movies that Roger Corman touched, and I don't know to what level of his touch are we limiting our picks. But
Whatever goes. It's the man, If he had
yeah.
a hand in it, then it's Roger Corman.
Well, the top pick for me for the movies that he made, there's a couple of them, but one of them is Mask of the Red Death, which was of course one of his Poe movies, the Poe cycle, as fans refer to them, and it's all most of them starred Vincent Price and Roger Corman. Just really, they're all very visually sumptuous, even if I think for Mask of the Red Death, he got the sets from Beckett before they were torn down. Because Beckett, a much bigger production film, and had these sets built, these castle sets. So Corman was able to use those before they were torn down, and it was it really elevated the film a little bit. So that's kind of exciting, and that sort of exemplifies his attitude. It wasn't only that he was an artist, because a lot of these films he just produced it or put it together. um, he had vision for what might happen given what he has. Like, you have an opportunity to film something on a set that's going to be torn down. This set is beautiful, write a movie around this set. Like, let's do something and we can use this. And because a couple of people that I've talked to have had that same successful people that I've talked to have worked in the film industry, have had that same attitude. We just had Fred Olin Ray on the show last night, and he did that very thing. He had access to a $10,000 set, and he had no movie, so he just wrote this scene for a couple people to star in, and they went and shot it. And he was like, I was just going to make a movie about it later. And Roger Corman pioneered that way of thinking, or at least helped popularize it. So Mask of the Red Death, anyway, that's my top film of his that he made. A couple others that come to mind, and these are just Roger Corman touched them. Another film he directed was Frankenstein Unbound
I
in
saw
1990.
that.
That was his last film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just it's a movie that I did not like the first time I saw it, which was when I rented it on home video in the early 90s. It didn't get a theatrical release here in the US, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But it there was that was back when you could open a movie big on VHS, and then you'd go in the video store, there'd be a big poster there of it encouraging you to rent it. And I didn't like it. I just was like, oh, this movie's stupid. I was like, I was young, okay. But I went back and watched it again when we discussed doing this whole project, and wow, I was so wrong, because that movie is it's something, dare I say, original that incorporates this an existing story, the Frankenstein story, incorporates it into a bigger narrative. And I love the way that Frankenstein Unbound does that. Movies that he just produced, Galaxy of Terror, is these were all New World Pictures, which it was, Roger's studio. Galaxy of Terror, which was an Alien ripoff from 1981, starring well, one of the cast members was Aaron Gray or Aaron Moran. Aaron Moran from Happy Days. And there was a great scene where she gets squeezed to death by all these tendrils and her head explodes. And he killed Joni.
Joni
from Happy Days.
From Happy
Roger
Days,
Corman didn't direct that, but James Cameron worked on it. On James Cameron, actually, a youngish James Cameron worked as a special effects technician on that production.
That's cool.
Humanoids from the Deep, a revolting movie that came out in 1980, and it's really a great example of Roger's sleazier tendencies.
Did we watch that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we did.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Very gross. And also, my fifth movie was Piranha, another stellar New World Pictures production.
What year was the original Piranha? The one you're talking about?
78.
Yeah.
78. Okay.
Yeah, because there was another one, right, Michael?
I think there was a sequel and then there was a remake.
Yeah.
There was a Piranha 2, and then at some point there was a remade. Because when I was looking for it, I found like several other ones that were Piranha something.
Yeah, for Showtime, I think it was Showtime in the mid-90s, there was this series of old New World Pictures that had been remade. For what reason, I don't know, because it was remade in 1996 for that series, and William Catt starred in it.
Yeah, that's it. I remember.
American Hero.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Sadly, I don't know. There's no reason to watch that, if you ask me, because it's literally it's a shot for shot remake of the original almost.
Yeah.
So just watch the original.
Yeah.
But so many people and he had his his crew of people that he usually worked with on these, and you'll see them like going from cast to cast and the crew to crew. So it was kind of like, if you were working for him or with him, you were part of the family, I guess.
So here, real quick, I don't want to get into showing the images just yet, but I wanted to touch on what you had said. Where's the Zoom thing? Oh, there it is. You had mentioned Frankenstein Unbound. I just learned that it did have a limited theatrical release in 1990, and this was one of the newspaper ads for it. And
I just remember watching it and like getting it from Blockbuster. Remember they used to have Remember they used to have the buckets that were already like sealed with popcorn, and all you had to do was just take the seal off. Yeah, I'm such a I miss those days, man. These kids don't know. I know. Making a Blockbuster night, guys.
Oh, seriously. Like, part of the joy was going to the store and walking around perusing until you found something that you wanted.
I miss it.
And then like that last chance to buy goodies on your way out,
Dude, that was such a mind fuck because they knew that they were going to get you. They were going to get you.
Or if you had kids, they were going to get your kids. And like every time I'd bring Spencer and Sydney to the video store, I had to get them some kind of candy.
Yeah.
So, all right, Mike Hill, why don't you tell us if you what you watched and if you had any top picks?
Okay, I just want to ask. I'm writing down some of the ones that Bill mentioned because I want to watch them. What was the Galaxy one? Galaxy
of Terror.
Galaxy of Terror. Mask of the Red Death. Frankenstein Unbound. Piranha. Okay.
I found on YouTube. I didn't find it on any streaming service.
Oh, okay.
What?
I watched.
Did any of you guys? Sorry, did I cut it?
No, go ahead, man.
Did any of you guys have a chance to find Bucket of Blood?
I
Yeah.
happen to have that one on DVD. So
I didn't. Yeah, I have it on DVD, so I didn't look for to see where it was
Yeah,
streaming.
because I really wanted to watch that, and some of that stuff is real. And see, we always talk about the importance of physical media because of shit like this. Like as stuff, progresses and in age, it's harder to find it because some of these studios, I don't know if they, don't have the rights to, put it online because I was prepared to, pay my, $7 for the rental for the 48 hours.
because it's
But
streaming on Amazon Prime.
okay.
It's also on Fubo, AMC, and
Because I really wanted to see it. I really did because I just
yeah.
thought that was such a some posh shit. It really was. Like how brilliant to like come up with like this concept of like murdering, well, accidentally anyway, you know. And
Well,
then
tell us the plot.
oh, um but I didn't have a chance to watch it because like I said I
Oh,
couldn't
right.
find
Okay.
it.
It's basically it's Dick Miller, and I forget exactly what he accidentally was. It a cat he first encased in,
Yeah, they said it was a cat.
and then it died, and then he realized he could kill people and then cover them in plaster and
But
claim.
isn't that brilliant? Because think about how much we value worthless bullshit that, society says is art. And it happens all the time. And this, like, and that's why I wanted to see this because I was like, oh, I feel like this man understands me. Because when I go to the Museum of Institute and Art, while everyone's standing there looking like, oh my God, it's such a vision, I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's just a square with a little dot in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Did
but I,
you did you ever hear about the I don't know when this happened, but there was a time at some point where there was a guy in a modern art museum. He took his glasses off and put them on the floor where there was a relatively open space and then like walked away and watched from a distance to see if people thought it was one of the art pieces. And a lot of people did, and they were like crouching down and taking pictures of it and talking about what it might mean and everything. And he was just like, I just put my fucking glasses on the floor. It's not supposed to mean anything.
But it did mean something.
It meant
yes,
something, yes.
I
Anything.
like stuff like that. I do. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I think there was just something in the news recently over, I think at a museum, or it might have been in Sweden or something, but well, they really did like just put a can of paint up there and like drop red paint around the white base and all of that. And then the guy put his card on the, and said, call me, or whatever.
Oh my God. I know.
Oh,
You wonder if you're being punked sometimes. Like, wait, is this, are you trying to
Yeah.
trick me?
we watched this movie. Oh, I probably shouldn't even get into it. So, Michael, did you finish your top picks?
I, well, okay, yeah, no, no. So the four that I watched for tonight, I just picked randomly, partially randomly based on title. The Pit and the Pendulum with Vincent Price, which I had seen before, but couldn't really remember. So I wanted to watch that again because I love the Edgar Allan Poe short
Mhm.
story. I watched Little Shop of Horrors because I had heard of the play and the musical, and I didn't know that it had ever been a movie. And it was a lot of fun. And then I also watched Attack of the Crab Monsters
Ooh.
and The Day the World Ended, which I liked quite a bit.
Nice. Did you end up watching The Haunted Palace? That was one I recommended.
Ah, no, you recommended it, but then I forgot what it was and I never got back to it. I'm
That's all right.
sorry.
You can add
Another
it to your list.
beautiful Poe movie,
I'm gonna add it to my list. Yeah.
sort of. It's not really a Poe movie. That's the funny thing about the
Oh,
Haunted
yeah, yeah.
Palace.
We'll get into that in a little bit. So Dantes, what are your top picks?
I think my first top pick is probably going to be Pit and the Pendulum. Just because I love Vincent Price, and Vincent Price is like the perfect person to do an Edgar Allan Poe film because he's like this classically Shakespearean trained actor who can, on key, give you this vicious fucking mind. And that's why I think I love Vincent Price because you really believe that he's insane.
He's so awesome.
Like, you really believe he's insane.
Yeah.
Um, So I'm just because of that, I'm gonna have to put that like way at like number one. And then after that, I'm gonna put Little Shop of Horrors, and I'm gonna put that as number two for sure. And the reason why is just because I love the campy nature of it. I like the social commentary of it. It didn't catch me as much because I'm the music person. I need some shoo-wah doo-wah. So for that reason, I preferred the remake. Which
Yeah,
is
that all
like.
came later, right? The music part was added later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so great. It's so great. I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed both of those. Um, and then The Raven, so what is that one too? I forget. Did I say more than
That's three.
that's three? Okay, yeah. The Raven. Um,
You can
and
say as many as you want.
oh, good.
Yeah.
And the reason why The Raven is because I actually remember watching this film with my big my grandmother, and we would sit up late at night and we would watch like not only like The Raven was one of them, and then I remember my grandmother telling me that it was the same person who was in this film who was also in. Come on, guys, where?
I haven't seen The Raven. I don't know.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
which one?
Well,
'Cause that
well,
had Vincent Price, Boris Karloff, Peter Lorre.
God, Rigor, you gave it away.
Oh,
Oh,
you reminded me of something. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. But and that was why, I enjoyed that film just because, it brought back, all of those memories for me. And then also too because my grandmother, told me like, hey, those are all the guys from, the old Universal movies. So yeah. So that's gonna be my number three. Um, and then also too, I'm gonna mention, even though I could not find a full movie of A Black Rose from Harlem, the movie with Cinda Williams, that was like a later, film of his that he directed. But just from, the first 45 minutes of it, I enjoyed it because it really shows this pivotal relationship that, the mob had during the early 20th century with, music, regardless of what color you were. And the dangers, of, trying to be, a singer or just, having a relationship with someone who's another color and music and booze and all of these common things that, usually cause, destruction. So that's like number four. And I only saw 45 minutes of that. And I would recommend watching that because Cinda is absolutely amazing in that film. And for those of you guys who don't know, Cinda Williams, she was in More Better Blues, which was like a Spike Lee joint. Um, yeah, I mean, really great, phenomenal actress. So I would totally recommend you guys looking at that because the first 45 minutes of that were great. I'm like, damn, this is why we need to have, everything on, physical, media because it's hard sometimes to find full, copies of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it is.
You,
It's
you
such a tragedy.
you were talking about relationships, and it reminded me of that movie Jungle Fever
Yeah.
with Annabella Sciorra and the guy that played Blade. What was the guy's name that played Blade?
Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes. And it's like I tried to find that a while ago because I had seen it in the theater and liked it, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So
Insane.
yeah, it's another
Yeah.
thing where if you had a physical copy of it, you'd be better off. But if you try to
well,
find it online, you can't find it.
and in fact, one of our fans commented on YouTube that he said you're correct about having physical media when you rely on online services to have a movie in stock, you're at their whim if
Hmm.
it will stay available or not. So yeah,
All right.
Yeah. So that I think that's my top four. Well, my four
what was your first two again?
I said
Pendulum and Horrors, or Little Shop of Horrors.
Little Shop of Horrors and The Raven.
My
So
brain
it's
is
three
I wanted to say, I'm sorry.
and Black Rose from Harlem. That actually had
Yeah.
like three alias titles too. So if you guys look that up, And that was probably why. And that,
Alternative titles.
yeah, you know, I don't understand that. I really don't understand the alternative titles because once I put out a product, once I put an album out, it's like out unless I come out with an expanded edition or something.
Right,
Well,
right.
think of it like this: like if you put something out and there were some people that didn't hear it, you could put it out under another title, and then maybe
True.
those people will hear it.
This is
That's
true, Bill. You're absolutely right.
Attract a different audience. Yeah.
That's true. That's
beautiful.
true. But what I love the most about him, and I also looked at a clip of him when he was speaking to PBS's American Masters, I believe. And what I loved about him is he really had a serious investment in Edgar Allan Poe.
Hmm.
And if you're a smart writer, you can do a lot with his material because it leaves a lot to the imagination. That's why, everybody loves, when The Simpsons, does their Halloween, interpretations because you can do so much with Edgar Allan Poe, nevermore,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So, I really enjoy just how intelligent he is. This is someone who really has an affinity for beauty in dark places. Like you have to have a very sinister, but comedic appreciation for these titles if you're casting and discovering the people that he has. And he also too, like, Francis Ford Coppola. God, I mean, there's Unsung, there's a series that, for, R&B artists that's called Unsung. And if there was an Unsung for, and even using the term, director is belittling for him because he was so much fucking more than that, and that's just the surface of who he was. I mean, this guy, he was directing, he was going out to find the cash to put the shit together, like all of these films like that, he had his hand in all of that. And today you can't, and I love, all of these guys, but today you can't find people like that. And I think that's the reason why we're still talking about his films, all these many, many moons later, because he was committed to giving himself over fully to the projects. And you can tell even when he shortcuts, to stay on budget, it doesn't take away from the production value. And here we are in 2024, and you go watch shit like The Omen, and you're like, oh, where's the scare? You know?
Yeah, I mean, he was just amazing. And if I re-listened to his interview on Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast,
I have to check
it
that out.
was just so amazing to listen to his tale of, how he got where he was and some of the stuff he had to do. Like he did not believe in permits. He's like, it's stupid. Why the fuck do we need to have a policeman stand around and pay him when nothing bad's gonna happen? Are we gonna hurt
Mhm.
people? So he just instructed his crew, if the cops come, run. you know, run into the crowd and
But
He's a
and I just love, I love people who are unafraid to be themselves, and this is someone who has had a clear vision for like the entire scope, of his career, and it actually made me appreciate Silence of the Lamb even more, lambs even more.
Now he
Once
was in that as an actor,
a
right?
cameo. Yeah, I don't
He
think
had a
he
yeah.
cameo in
had a
it.
hand in producing it.
Well,
He
again, it
did
just
try to
goes to
give
show
Demi
you,
his start.
A lot
right,
of people would put him in their movies like in a bit part because it was just sort of like a gag, like, oh, there's Roger Corman.
right. But
Yeah.
it just goes to show you, these guys from the old school, like you said, he started, in the mailroom. So this is
Right.
someone who literally knew the ins and outs, of all of it. And that's why, he made, good film, because he could, see things from, the actor's perspective. He could see things, from, a staging perspective. A lot of it's an art form. He was a
Well, yeah.
Svengali. He was a
Yeah.
Svengali.
Yeah. So I did distill mine down to a top five, but I watched more than five, and I have, a lot. I love a lot of his films, but these ones, when I rewatched them, these five in particular, I was reminded why they actually were my top five to begin with. My number one was The Haunted Palace, which I just will never forget. I think I saw this. I think I rented this back when I was in my early 20s and the early 90s. And I will just never forget the scene where Vincent Price, which, by the way, I forget which one you guys mentioned. It's not an Edgar Allan Poe story. It's an H.P. Lovecraft story. In fact, someone on our YouTube page mentioned that too. And
Yeah,
but it lists it as Edgar Allan Poe because they didn't think Lovecraft would sell, right, Bill?
exactly. Yeah. I think there was some sort of alteration that they made to the story to provide like I think I would have looked something like this up, but
Yeah.
there was some small change they made to it to make it sort of linked to Edgar Allan Poe, but really it's a Lovecraft story, like you said.
Yeah, it's based on the case of Charles Dexter Ward, who's a witch that gets burned back in like the 1700s, and then 200 years later, he's reincarnated and he's Vincent Price and he's a really good guy, but the original guy wants to come back. The Charles Dexter Ward wants to come back, and he ends up taking over his body. And there's an amazing scene in the middle of the movie when you don't even see it happen. You almost have to rewind it, where all of a sudden Vincent Price's just whole demeanor changes, and he is now this bad guy. And I'll never forget, like, that blew me away. I had always loved Price up to that point, but that one blew me away. And then, coming right after that, and this is another phenomenal movie, you guys. If you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. X, Man with the X-Ray Eyes, starring Ray Milland from '63. And he's basically this scientist who he doesn't understand why there are things that are beyond human vision. Like, why can't we see radiation or whatever? And so he invents these drops, he tests them on himself, and of course it gets worse and worse as he can see further and further through things. It's sort of like an incredible shrinking man, except with X-ray vision going haywire. And my God, did you guys watch that one at all?
No, I haven't
I've
seen
seen
that.
it.
Don Rickles is in it, and he's awesome in it,
Really?
Wasn't it?
in like a serious role.
That's
Wow.
why it's hard for me to believe that he's actually in that.
And you think it's just a cameo or something, but he's like, when he shows up, he doesn't go away.
Yeah,
Really good.
he's one of the main characters.
Like a cockroach. He doesn't go away.
I think that was one of Roger Corman's favorite of his films.
That's
Was
funny.
Man with the X-Ray Eyes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ray Milland was awesome in that, and that's just another one I remember watching as a kid. Actually, same with all of these. I mean, Fall of the House of Usher from 1960. That was that actually I on the podcast there. Corman said that he up till that point he had been making black and white movies, and he said to his financiers, "Look, give me a little bit more money. I want to shoot in color, and instead of 10 days, I'll get it done in 3 weeks." And he made House of Usher, and it was a huge hit. And I don't think he ever went back to black and white after that. And that's
Yeah,
Vincent
it's
Price.
probably the only time Roger Corman considered shooting something for more money.
Yeah.
Mm.
Who was it that said if he was trapped if he was trapped in a phone booth, Roger Corman would make a movie in it and finance it with the coins he find in the slot.
He'd use the phone booth to arrange it.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, it's funny because The Howling has all sorts of cameos from wonderful people, including Dick Miller in character as Walter Paisley from A Bucket of Blood.
Right. Yeah, we talked.
And
Wow.
there's a scene where a character's in a phone booth. Dee Wallace is in a phone booth, and there's a guy waiting outside to use it, and he's getting annoyed, and it's Roger Corman.
Yeah.
And like she leaves the phone booth, and like she leaves the phone booth. She's like, "Okay, buddy, it's all yours." And Roger Corman goes, and the first thing he does is stick his finger in the coin
In the
return
coin
slot to
slot.
see if
Yeah.
there's any money in there.
I remember that, but I didn't know that was him.
That was like a thing. Like
Funny.
it was like a moment of shame for humanity. Like for you to just like you weren't making a phone call. You just walk
Wait a
up and
minute,
stick
that
your
was
finger.
him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
You
Okay.
just walk up and stick your finger in a phone slot in a coin
see if there was-
slot to see
yeah,
if there was,
yeah.
because sometimes there would be coins in there, and you could go buy
Yeah.
like a pack of gum or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good old days, man. These kids don't know. Oh,
Then I watched Death Race 2000 from 75, and man, that is such a great movie. I mean, David Carradine's the main character in it. You may know him from Kill Bill and
yeah.
Kung Fu TV
Kung
show.
Fu.
And he's just awesome in that. And it's like I didn't realize what's her name? Mary Warnoff was in that. She looked so young in that movie.
That's a Paul Bartel movie, and
But
Paul
I
Bartel,
think he wrote and produced it, didn't he?
he
Yeah.
directed it.
No, Corman, I mean.
Oh, Corman, yeah, it was he made it for Roger Corman.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just got Roger Corman's stamp all over it. Stallone's in it. It's
Oh wow.
Really? Wow.
it's like
Now, didn't
Spielberg's
they
on acid.
on that Pope of Pop Culture documentary you had us watch? They said Corman said that at some point someone made a remake of it,
Yes.
and I would love to watch those two back to back and see,
It's
talk about those.
he made a sequel to it, I think. I'd have to look that up. But
Yeah.
the Death Race remake is just called Death Race and it stars Jason Statham. I saw that in the movies.
Jason
But Corman
Statham, yeah.
produced
Yeah, how was
all
that?
the remakes too.
Oh wow, he produced the remake too. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I saw that when I was doing my research and I didn't want to look at it because Statham. That's one remake I didn't want to check out.
What was I gonna say? I tried really hard to only watch stuff that was directed by Corman for
Mm.
today, but I guess it wasn't necessarily that restriction put on it, but I tried really hard. I wanted to mention something that Dantes, when he was talking, reminded me of was I don't know why, but I tried to watch this other movie on Tubi called The Terror
Oh yeah.
with that had Jack Nicholson in it and Boris Karloff. But the version that I found was like in Spanish,
Oh,
and it was dubbed in Spanish. And when I put on the English subtitles, but they were so far off. You know those old Godzilla movies where like the guy's speaking and it's like it doesn't match up. But in this case, it wasn't just that it didn't match up because it was a different language. It was like the subtitles happened at a different time from when the person was talking. And
Oh, like an old Chinese kung fu flick.
yeah. So like 10 minutes in, I
Lastly,
was like,
you can
I'm
find
out.
that on archive.org, and I think it's even on Tubi.
Is it okay? I just couldn't. I don't know why. The one I clicked on was in Spanish, and I just gave up. But
That movie scared the shit out of me as a kid. I won't say if you haven't seen the whole thing, but there's a scene
no,
towards the end where something happens to a character, and that I never forgot that.
it was amazing to see how young Jack Nicholson was.
Yeah. Corman said in his interview that when he was making that movie, I think he kind of came up with the plot or something. That's what it was. He was supposed to go play tennis and it got rained out. So he said, all right, well, I'll just make a movie. And he called up his production partner and came up with the idea of The Terror, and they filmed it. They were already in the middle of making a movie and they used the same sets and filmed around it. But other directors came in. So like Coppola came in and did a segment, a portion of the film, I should say. And, other directors came in and put their stamp on it. So at the end of the day, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, one thing I thought was really funny is I tried to watch that right after Pit and the Pendulum, and they used the same shot. There's like a shot of a castle. I don't know if it's a painting or an actual castle where there's like a storm, lightning and thunder and stuff. And it was like the same castle from both movies. I was like, what a random, that I would try to watch them back to back and it would be the same castle. But
That's funny.
I'm
And then
gonna
the
try to
last one
find
I
the English
wanted
version.
to talk about was one I highly recommend. Again, if you haven't seen it, Bill, you obviously probably have, The Wild Angels from '66, starring Peter Fonda. That is just a fun movie. That's sort of what inspired Fonda and Dennis Hopper to make Easy Rider shortly thereafter. But Wild
Yeah,
Angels,
Corman was involved in a lot of different genres. It's
Yeah.
not fair that people say that he made cheap horror movies sometimes,
Yeah.
and even though that's
Right.
how he's characterized, it was spanning all genres and, well, anything marketable and exploitable anyway.
Yeah.
I just have to say too, all these movies remind me of, watching them when I was a kid. Except I got She Gods of Shark Reef on DVD a few years back, and first of all, I didn't realize it was a Corman film, and I cannot get through that movie. That it's just
Oh, Roger.
that's a tough
Oh
one to get
man,
through.
The she
Um,
gods are displeased.
why?
it's just I don't know. I don't even remember. I think I blocked it out. It was just
My God.
it might be that the video quality is so poor that it was
Okay.
hard to enjoy it anyways.
Yeah, great.
Surprised you said that. Ugh.
Little Shop of Horrors, the quality's awful also. At least the
Yeah.
one I watched. Yeah,
What
but
did
it
I
was still good to watch.
It's
But
hard to
still,
find a good quality copy of that. If you're talking about the original Little Shop of Horrors,
yeah.
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I love that movie too. And this is probably not a popular opinion, but it's more of a nostalgia thing for me because it's a little disturbing to see some movies cleaned up and looking beautiful. And
Mm,
Little Shop of Horrors is one of those because I don't know if you ever saw that movie. It was in the public domain for a long time. So anybody could show it on television and anybody could put it on VHS. Like the early VHS days, that was always something you could buy, and it was always on like this really cheaply made, slapped together VHS box. And because kids just make it and sell it and didn't have to pay anyone for it. So and it was always a shitty print. It was always like all
yeah.
blurry and faded, black
Yeah.
and white, but that's kind of what I love about it now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it doesn't look like Little Shop of Horrors anymore.
I
Yeah.
watched it on Prime, and it was actually really good quality.
Oh, really? Maybe they cleaned it up a little.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did have some fans send in pics. We had a lot of votes for Death Race 2000 and Bloody Mama. And our buddy Frank recommended Dementia 13, which was produced by Corman and directed by Coppola, which I forgot about that one. So,
Put that one down.
so let's talk about some of the real briefly. I'm just going to mention the names here, the Hollywood legends that Corman discovered, and then I want to get into some pictures. But Jack Nicholson, of course, who was just became an unbelievable star. Francis Ford Coppola, we've mentioned. Charles Bronson, he was in
Yeah.
Corman's film Machine Gun Kelly.
I remember.
Robert De Niro was in Bloody Mama. Sylvester Stallone, like we said, was he was in Capone as well as Death Race 2000. And who else? Oh yeah, Stallone. James Cameron, of course, got his start working on Galaxy of Terror. And
Did you mention Martin Scorsese? Mention Martin Scorsese?
Oh, really? I had no clue.
Next on the list, I'm talking.
Oh, sorry.
Don't
Sorry,
rush me. Don't rush me.
I ate a piece of your pie right off your plate. I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go. He did stuff on Battle Beyond the Stars, which is well, up until a few years ago, is the only movie I've ever fallen asleep to in the theater.
Wow.
I was a kid when that came out too. What was that? 81, somewhere around there. And of course, yeah, Martin Scorsese, who did
Really?
Wise ass.
He directed, of course, Boxcar Bertha, which starred Barbara Hershey and David Carradine.
Bye.
And then Corman does a cameo in that. Oh no, Scorsese does a Hitchcockian cameo as the brothel customer. That's right. James Horner, who did the music for Star Trek 2 and Aliens.
Tons of stuff.
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
For Corman. Ron Howard, of course.
Oh yeah.
Didn't know about that.
Yeah, this was what he said about working with Roger Corman. He said, Corman said to me one day when we were testing titles for Eat My Dust, there was another title that came in very close second, Grand Theft Auto. If you can fashion a car crash comedy about young people on the run, I'd let you direct that picture. So my dad and I cooked up a story within 24 hours. It was the fastest green light I've ever gotten to this day. I never did direct again for him, but I did cast him in Apollo 13. We love him. We all do. So I thought
I remember Grand Theft Auto.
And Corman sued the gaming company for stealing that
Yeah.
name.
Good.
Wow.
And then he said in that documentary that he sold the title, The Fast and the Furious, to the people who made the Fast and the Furious movies. They wanted the title,
Yeah.
Yeah, and they went through the correct channels, and instead of stealing it, they just asked him and he bought it from him. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Which is awesome.
That's smart.
Sandra
yeah.
Bullock was in Fire on the Amazon, which that one I don't know. I don't remember
Huh.
that. Of course, David Carradine, we mentioned Joe Dante, who went on to direct The Howling, Gremlins, Matinee. Frank Maxwell. Oh yeah, Frank Maxwell kept showing up. So all right, so we'll get to some of these other guys here. Let me start sharing some photographs here. Photographs, good thinking, Commander. All right, let me.
Photographs, eh?
Photographs, mate.
All right, here we go. We're gonna go with this.
Does
And
she
then,
go?
is she a goer? What?
Is she a goer? Does she go?
Yeah.
She sometimes goes. I bet she does. I bet she does.
Hello, this is Pete Burns of Dead or Alive. I think you're all very silly.
All right, so he's got the man himself. And
There he is.
Yeah, that's
to what, 98, 99, something like that.
Wow.
Hold on, I'm just looking at okay, we'll get to some fan messages in a bit. This picture was used in
Wow.
tons of newspapers. Like I just did a wide search for Corman throughout the 60s and then again throughout the 70s, and I actually found too much information. There's so many articles about him that I may compile them and put them together on a web page so people can see them because they're pretty fascinating to read. But this one, it was the most popular picture. I think it was probably used in like 50 papers.
Wow. That's a great picture.
And then there's another picture of him there.
It looks like the Hulk from the other.
Oh yeah, yeah, Dick Duran.
With the teeth pulled back and
Was it? It
just
was
in that picture.
The first.
The first, not the other. Yeah, the first.
There he is again, although he looks like he's Asian.
That's not him. That's Bruce Lee.
I don't know. It says it's him. But then there he is there. And then that's him.
That's a cool picture.
That's what I picture.
That's a nice photo.
Project Corman. And then there's Vincent Price in the mask of Peter Lorre. Can I move this stupid thing? Hold on. Okay, great. See, now Roger Corman's monster films often starred Vincent Price with Peter Lorre's head. Okay, so this guy is Frank Maxwell. He was in Wild Angels, and he was in The Haunted Palace. And it was funny, like every time I turned on a Corman film, he was in it. And I recognize him right off the bat, mainly because he's got this distinct voice. And Michael, you might remember a long time ago, he played Dan Rooney on General Hospital.
He does look familiar, yeah.
If you heard his voice, it would definitely ring a bell. And he was on like every freaking TV show out there. Then we've got, of course, Dick Miller that we talked about.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you see, pal.
Just what you see, pal.
And of course, Peter Fonda. He was in Wild Angels. And did Corman produce? Corman didn't have a hand in Easy Rider, did he?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think so, but
yeah,
it's possible.
I think him and Dennis Hopper went off on their own after making this movie and going, well, we could do a movie. The Wild Angels also has Bruce Dern in it and Michael J. Pollard, and it's just it's so good. And then of course is Dennis Hopper.
The grip of a madman.
Madman. This, of course, is John Boy Walton, Richard Thomas, and Darlene Flugel in Battle Beyond the Stars. And it says John Boy may finally have a successful movie.
John Boy.
What, the Black Hole wasn't a success? All right.
Battle Beyond the Stars. Is that Corman? Battle Beyond the Stars?
Yeah.
Battle Beyond the Stars, yeah. All right, so this was from Buster, which I don't know why they made Vincent Price's head have all the lines, but I had first feeble movements in the coffin. We had put her living in the tomb.
True.
That's a great movie. That really, all these movies, you forget like what a really good director he was, and he's so got an eye for a shot and for atmosphere, and he really can set a tone in his films. It's amazing.
The whole idea of being buried alive is so horrific.
It is, isn't it?
God.
Same. Here's another one when it was the full title, Fall of the House of Usher. So I noticed, Phil, do you know anything about the title change? And did the ads seem to switch between the two?
I really have no explanation for that, honestly. Sometimes, yeah, in this, I think sometimes the newspapers were able to change the title of the movie locally if they chose. They would get a press book that had either one title or the other. Usually, though, that was for movies that had much more gruesome titles than House of Usher.
Right.
So, I'm not really sure what the explanation for the two titles is in this case. Um, I did want to comment on what Dantes said earlier about movies with alternate titles. Is that was a lot of times it's not the case here for Fall of the House of Usher, but a lot of times that happened because the movies, these were like independent films that someone made it and then they could have sold it to somebody else, to a distributor who was going to put it out, and the distributor didn't want it to seem stale since it had already played theaters. So they would change the title of the movie sometimes for that reason. And also because the movies weren't wide, they didn't go into wide release. Like sometimes the movie would only play like in Florida, Tennessee, and maybe Texas. And then that would be over. It would just stall and nobody would be booking it anymore. So then one distributor would sell it to another distributor, then cut a new title in it, and then they would put it out again in their area under another title. So that's one of the reasons that happened. Of course, doesn't happen anymore because that whole system of releasing films is long gone.
Yeah. So let's go into the next one here. Oh, this was a from I put it here. Sunday, February 5th, 1978. They were already doing Roger Corman film festivals. And
Wow.
Bucket of Blood, Little Shop of Horrors, The Intruder, House of Usher, Mask of Red Death, Tomb of Lygia, Wild Angels, Gas, The Trip. Oh, and I've got some good one ads
It's
for
impressive.
release The Trip. Cage Heat, Bloody Mama. Oh yeah, Jonathan Demme did Cage Heat, plus a history of New World Pictures presented in a trailer show compiled by Bartel. Oh yeah, because Bloody Mama, of course. And then Targets, Peter Bogdanovich, Boxcar Bertha, and Dementia 13. Targets is a really good movie. That's like
Yeah.
it's disturbing almost.
I have to write that one down.
It's with Boris Karloff and
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's like there's a modern significance to it too, because it's about someone with a gun picking off people in a drive-in.
Oh.
yeah,
What about Bucket of Blood? Is that a good movie?
yeah,
Yeah, I
Would you
want to see
recommend that
that.
one?
yeah.
I want to see that one.
The title is kind of making me go, but I guess it might be really good.
Yeah. It's the one we were saying that stars Dick Miller as an artist who uses plaster.
Ah, okay.
He plasters the cat and sells.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the plaster one with the cat. Oh, okay. I got you. I got you.
The Intruder is a really good one too. In fact, that was on my list to watch, and I forgot about it. It's with William Shatner, and it has to do with integration in the South. And he's this guy that goes down there to try and fan the flames of the fires, and just he's just awful in it. But I mean, as an actor, he's really good in it. It's a very powerful movie. So I highly recommend that one. All right, so then we've got The Haunted Palace, of course.
Dementia 13 is a great title.
Yeah. Playing with the Mind Benders, which Dirk Bogard, I'm trying to remember, wasn't he
Sounds like the name of a band.
It does, doesn't it?
Mind Benders?
The Mind Benders.
Oh, Dirk Bogard was in one of the other. Wasn't he in?
Lon Chaney was in that. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. This Haunted House is so good. Oh my god.
Wow.
All right, and then I put this here for a reason. Oh, because it was playing with the Mind Benders, and I think it was playing with X-Men with the X-ray eyes.
Oh.
So I thought that was cool. So
Ticklish Affair. What the fuck? Okay.
there's so many there were so many points throughout history where Corman's got like 4 or 5 movies out at the same time.
Same time.
Oh, and here's a double horror preview. It's a different type of horror show that you'll enjoy. The Last Woman on Earth had a gay time, but it was horrible for the men. The Little Shop of Horrors is a funny horror type.
Is The Last Woman on Earth like a funny movie, or is it like
No,
a?
it's serious. I rewatched that this morning.
Is it okay, or does it suck?
Was that right? I watched the Riff Tracks version.
Oh, okay.
Bill, what did you think of Last Woman on Earth?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's on
Okay, I'll put that one down too.
there's a regular version or the Riff Tracks version. It's okay. It's nowhere near as good as The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price.
Oh, was that Corman too? No.
No, that wasn't Corman. All right, and then he produced this one with New World Pictures, Cries and Whispers, but I don't think he produced the actual film. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. He was starting to with New World, he was starting to bring in foreign films, right? Put them out.
Yeah, yeah, this was something that he picked up for distribution.
Yeah. So his name was all over the place. And then of course Devil's Angels.
Violence is their god.
It's John Cassavetes. And it's playing with Tobruk and the Corrupt Ones.
Devil's Angels is also Roger Corman, right? Wild Angels and Devil's Angels.
I don't think he directed it. I think he just produced Devil's Angels.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
But on Wild Angels, apparently he hired a bunch of real Hell's Angels in it, and for whatever reason, they got mad at him. I'm looking at the wrong thing. They got pissed off at him the way he was presenting them, so they said they were going to sue him. And then the head of the Hell's Angels met with him and said, "No, they said they said they were going to sue him, and then he said we're going to kill you." And we're going to sue you. And so Corman basically, he told this story on the Gilbert Godfrey show. He basically said, well, you could kill me, except you've already announced to the world that you're going to kill me. So if I slip in the bathroom and die, they're going to blame you. He goes, you're better off just going for the money. And the Hell's Angel guy was like, you know what? You're right. We're just going to do
that.
Saved his life, man.
All right. Devil's Angels from 67 was directed by Daniel Halter and producer, Arkoff and Corman produced it. So it's an AIP film.
What's Tobruk?
That's a war movie. I don't remember. Rock Hudson, George
Papard.
Guy Stockwell.
One of the battles of World War II.
Papard. Robert Stack is in The Corrupt Ones.
Oh, there you go. All right, so here's another one that had Last Woman on Earth and Little Shop of Horrors, and over here was playing House of Usher.
Diabolique.
He's got like three movies, or I'm sorry, two movies playing at one time.
Three. Yeah.
Oh.
Produced and directed.
Wow.
One is at the drive-in, and the other one was at the Majestic.
Yeah, these two at the drive-in.
Yeah.
Which that wouldn't have been a bad double feature.
No.
And then there's Grand Theft Auto, Ron Howard. It's funnier and faster. He's a high-speed disaster.
Rapid Roy, that stock car boy, he too much to believe.
So Gilbert says to him, so you crashed all these cars up and you hosed them off and fixed the dents and sent them back? He goes, oh, we didn't hose them off. We just sent them back. We destroyed them all.
Hose them off?
Oh, God.
And then, I was going to suggest a break. St. Jack, starring Ben Gazzara. Oh, Peter Bogdanovich. That's why Corman produced it. Yeah, Roger Corman presents, because Peter Bogdanovich worked under him. Bill, did you see this one? Grand Theft Auto.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful,
isn't it? It's such a great poster. So then there's one.
Ronnie Howard.
Bogdanovich directed, and then what else we've got? I looked it up. These are both Corman produced films: Pit Stop and Naked Angels.
Mad Dogs from Hell.
This one,
Pit Stop sounds like a Grindhouse film.
Oh, because this one, I've never seen this movie. And I know the song from it, though. It's called I Never Promised You a Rose Garden.
Yeah.
I see this one now because it's basically a female version of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
So this was news to me. Bill, have you seen this one?
No, I haven't seen that one.
I never promised you a rose garden.
Rose garden.
But the Trip with Peter Fonda.
I kind of wanted to see that one.
Yeah, I know. I think I saw it a long time ago, but
Didn't they say in that documentary that someone told him that like if you haven't ever done drugs, you can't make this movie?
right. And he did LSD.
So he did LSD to see what it was like.
Said they went up to a mountain place or something that was very serene, and they would take turns so that someone was the sober one in case something bad happened.
What could go wrong?
I know, right?
I don't know.
Psychedelic color.
That playing against the Wild Angels or with. Would you believe the co-feature? No, I would not. But wait, yes, I would.
Oh, I can't. No, my mind will not accept it.
I'm sorry, but The Wild Angels is not the most terrifying film of our time. In fact, I don't think there's anything terrifying about it. Maybe their
Oh, Nancy
behavior.
Sinatra's in it.
The kids are scary. That's what was terrifying about it.
All right.
What's happening to society?
Yeah, Frank Maxwell plays the priest in that, or the reverend. All right, and then we've got another one. Oh, look at this lineup though. Okay, so you've got You Only Live Twice. That's what I say when kids go yolt. I say YOLO. No, I'm sorry. Strike that. Reverse it.
Okay, Willy
Yolt.
Wonka.
Kids say YOLO. I say
Yolt.
Divorce American Style, and then St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which he directed. Playing and in this theater we have the.
Is that about the thing that Capone did? The St. Valentine's Day Massacre?
It was.
So
Was it Capone that did it? I think it was. I can't remember now. It was because it was basically these guys were standing on the street and guys came by with a Tommy gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just blew him away in broad daylight. Yeah.
Like
I think that was Capone's men.
2 hours.
Yeah.
I know, right?
There's another one for the trip. And then
another one for the trip. The trip, man, the trip. You got to go see the trip. What you should trip while you're watching the trip.
Funky, all he wants is a pint in his pocket and a pig when he wants to play around. Robot can't walk straight, but he'll drive his chopper through the gates of hell.
He wants a pig when he wants to play around. Okay.
Oh, I got to see that now. I love biker movies.
Who could resist somebody like that?
What's the biker movie where they somehow the bikers figure out they're in England, which has biker gangs apparently, and they find out if they kill themselves, they come back as immortals.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's Psychomania.
Yes, yeah, that's a fun movie.
I love that movie, aka the Death Wheelers.
Yes, yeah.
Put that
All
on.
right, so I took the whole page on this just to kind of, I'm not going to read everything, but the trip is authentic portrayal of LSD hallucinations. It's a chick from Devil's Angels there.
I definitely got to watch it then because I've always been curious about hallucinogens.
Yeah,
but I've never had the balls to actually try them.
Good for you.
It's always
Wait,
just a
honestly,
little
who's minding them in?
nervous.
I never tried them either because I was always afraid I'd be that person that would be drooling in a corner.
Yeah.
Just
Or
start
have like
one-
such a bad trip that it would freak you out to the point where you need therapy to recover.
Well, you know, it's always a bad trip if you take the whole pill. You gotta start slow, guys.
Oh, really? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
See, I didn't know.
like you guys don't know how to do that. You guys gotta just you
Don't know.
build your tolerance level up. You take a small piece and then you go up from there. Usually the small piece will work out just fine if you don't want to be totally fucked up.
All right, so let's get back to this. So we've got Burial playing with a Rommel's treasure, and here's Capone that we mentioned that I think Stallone had a part in.
Capone.
Al Capone, and then this one was the trip.
Susan Blakely was in that.
All these like things praising the film here.
You're obsessed with the trip, aren't you?
No, it just what happened when it came up.
You're just tripping. Star Wars.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I wanted to show you guys. So what was
That's a
playing
good
at the
week.
same time. This was
Oh,
from
they made it look like
October 77.
like a porn movie practically. Look, breasts, open chest.
They didn't know what to do with Star Wars.
Yeah.
So it took off.
Think about it. They didn't even know who was going to play the roles when they made that painting.
No.
But nothing.
No. Smokey and the Bandit, The Sting. Oh, Smokey and the Bandit and The Sting. What a double shot.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a great God, I don't know if I can do all that in the weekend. That would have been like a week. At least
That's
3.
awesome.
Yeah. Then we've got another. Oh, Wild Angels one, most terrifying film of our time, starts tomorrow.
Peter Fonda and Nancy
I see a
Sinatra.
It
swastika.
would be fun
Oh,
if it
yeah.
said electrifying. That would be better, but
There's swastikas all
terrifying.
through the movie.
Oh
I don't
shit!
see a swastika.
And it's funny
In
because
the
Frank
bottom right
Sinatra's
corner.
character at one point, I think, says to them, "It's like you don't even know what this symbol means. We fought against that symbol, and you guys are taking it and thinking it's just okay to use, and it's not."
Hmm.
But that was kind of cool. And this, I just loved what was playing this day in 1980. I mean, look at this,
This is a beautiful thing.
isn't it? Pretty
That'll
Great
be on the stars.
Zombie,
Oh my, Blue Lagoon.
Blue Lagoon,
Oh
My
my, it's getting
Bodyguards.
brisk in here.
I know,
Mike,
right?
do you recognize this guy here?
My Bodyguard. I remember that movie.
Oh God, Matt Dillon.
You recognize this guy here that I'm circling?
That's
Isn't it Jane
Yes.
That's
from
Linderman.
Firefly?
Yep. He was on Firefly. He was in
Tons of stuff.
Independence Day.
The Octagon.
Yes,
Yeah, look at that.
Octagon.
Chuck Norris and Lee Van Cleef. Oh, that's a rewatch. I gotta watch
Oh wow.
the Ninja Unholy Masters of Terror. No one will admit they still exist. Only one man can stop.
We should do like a kung fu ninja movie thing one time.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
It looks like
gosh,
Brooke
yeah, that'd be
Shields.
great.
It looks like Brooke Shields is wearing a jock strap.
It does.
Yeah.
She's trying to cover up the bush.
And the imperfections in the newspaper make it look like he's got horns.
Oh yeah, or you got an axe to the head or something.
So,
Do
yeah.
you know where your children are?
Final
Remember that?
countdown.
It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
Yes.
We are going to eat
They're in
you.
Blue Lagoon right now.
All right. I'm gonna go quickly through these because apparently I have a lot more than I thought. Tumalagia double backed with Black Sabbath. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Cool.
to go so fast. Hold on. I apologize.
It looks like the Headless Horseman in Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Isn't that in the middle there? It looks like
It
that.
does. And he's holding his
Yeah.
and
Huh.
I don't remember that in the movie, but Bill, do you remember?
Yeah, it's from one of the stories. It's not the Headless Horseman though.
Right. So this is just careers he's launched: Jack Nicholson, Francis Ford Coppola, Peter Bogdanovich, and Vincent Price. There we go. Oh, this was another. Oh, this was the one I just looked up at the beginning of the show.
Kingston Unbound, Henry and June. I remember Graveyard Shift. I remember that name. I never know.
It's a great poster.
Oh, there we go. The man with the X-ray eyes.
Yeah. Here, I'll zoom in so you guys can read it.
Suddenly he couldn't lose in Vegas. Oh wow.
It's an excellent, excellent movie. I
Wow.
forgot just how good it was. And it's another example of Corman's ability to direct.
Hercules and the Captive Women.
Yep, we're at the end. Yay.
Yay.
Yay. Yay.
It's too bad that he could see through all the way to the women's bones. He'd be like, no, dial it back a little, dial it back a little.
Well, it works out at first because he's a doctor, and that's what he wanted, the ability to heal. He could see what was wrong with you. He could look at it and go, like Superman looking at Lois Lane's lungs, going, "Oh, you're fine now, but you might want to quit."
Yeah, you'd be a good surgeon that way. You could just see through and
Yeah. So it's a really good story. So Phil, can you do me? Or actually, do we all want to just take a 5-minute break here?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's do that. We'll take a quick 5-minute break, and we'll be back. So I'm going to share this image. And where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share here. For those who are tuning in still, I just want to thank you all for being here with us and joining us. Please spread the word about us. Spread the word about Fright Lounge. And if you could tell people, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So feel free to chime in, leave your comments, and please like and subscribe our YouTube page. And don't forget to hit that little bell so you get you get all of our updates, all of our videos that come out. And the more viewers we get, the more videos we'll be able to put out, which will be cool. Also, excuse me for 1 second. We're on Twitter, so please like and follow us over there. And we have a Facebook page. So just go to facebook.com/Fright Lounge. And if you could hit a like on that page and share it with your friends, that would be awesome. In fact, if you could share all three, YouTube and Twitter as well, that'd be great. That'd be so awesome.
Yes.
So while we're waiting for Mike and Dantes to come back, let's look over some of the Bill, do you want to do some of the YouTube comments that we've gotten?
Yeah, Darren Kersey was watching earlier. I'm not sure if any of these folks are still there, because Cthulhu Incorporated was watching and apparently had to check out. Oh, you know what? Oh, I'm having a hard time getting back to the screen with the comments.
Okay.
I hate these fucking apps. It's like the way you use them changes all the time.
I just have it on my laptop, so I have it on a separate monitor, and it's just got I've got all three open.
Yeah, Darren and Cthulhu Incorporated were watching on YouTube. So thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and we've got Frank giving us some great comments over on Facebook.
Oh, Frank Polvino.
Yes. Someone posted that Bucket of Blood is all over streaming and YouTube. The Just Watch app. I forgot what I said it was. Which, by the way, I'm not a shill for Just Watch, but I think it's probably Just Watch app and IMDb app are probably next to my email and my banking are the two most used apps on my phone. I highly recommend it. If you go, oh, I want to see this movie, where is it? Just app will tell you most everywhere it is. It won't tell you certain things like like YouTube. It won't tell you YouTube. It won't tell you, I don't think, on the Friendly app. But for the most part, it's pretty accurate. So anyway, we should get them as a sponsor, Bill.
I'll work on that.
So Frank said there's a line in Dementia 13, which was one of the movies he recommended. The line was, she was an American girl raised on promises. Which I thought was funny. He said Corman even makes Hell's Angels scripts better, which he does. And maybe the logo is a martini, but instead of for our logo contest, but instead of an olive skewered, it's an eyeball. Oh, that's a good idea.
That's a good one.
To write that one down. Thanks, Frank. That's a really good one. So no comments yet on Twitter, although we've had 3 views, so that's good. We're new there. So, oops, I'm doing the wrong thing. I should just go to that thing.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So Bill, do you want to start sharing your images?
Oh, was I supposed to have images?
Oh, I didn't know if you had any. I texted you, remember? And I said if you have any.
Oh, no, I don't have any images.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't read your text.
I would have only showed the ones that you showed anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was pretty hard to dig those out. So let's go back here for a little bit. Well, is there any particular Corman movie that you've heard so much about but you have yet to see? Dantes, you go first.
I still have not seen Bucket of Blood, and I know it's everywhere now, but maybe I just wasn't searching accurately, because I just could not for the life of me find it. So
cool. What about you, Michael?
Gosh, I don't know. Just any, there's some, I think, like, for me, like, any, well, I think, I guess what I'll go with is Mask of the Red Death, because I've always been curious about that. and wanted to see it, and then Bill mentioned it, and it reminded me again that I want to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, all his Poe ones are good. That's a really good one.
You
Yeah, I
can't
think for
go
me,
wrong.
it's The Trip.
Mm.
I've never seen The Trip, so definitely gonna have to watch that.
Oh, that was going to be mine because I
sorry.
haven't seen any of those drug movies. So that would probably be on my list. And we saw so many ads for it earlier. I was like, oh
Yeah.
wow, this is
Have
the
you seen?
universe speaking to me.
You know what? It's a trippy movie in and of itself. Is and it came out around the same time as Corruption with Peter Cushing. Have you guys seen that one?
Yeah, it's not a woman's picture.
Right.
Corruption.
Oh.
That's what their ad campaign said. In fact, the gimmick was that if you
Well,
are a woman, yeah, it said it's not a woman's picture, and if you are a woman, you were not admitted alone.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm
Because it
sure
was
there
like
was no
violent, or
theater.
because it's
Yeah,
misogynistic or something. I don't
well,
know.
both, but you
Both.
know, there was probably no theater that enforced that rule.
Yeah.
Or why would they?
Right.
Yeah, that's
You can't go. Well, that means I'm going to go.
Some of his early science fiction films, I'm sure many horror fans have at least heard of, but these were all over the TV when we were kids. The Beast with a Million Eyes from 1950,
Yeah.
which was funny. He told a funny story about that. They realized after they made the movie that they didn't have a beast and it didn't have a million eyes. So they
Oh,
had,
there's no beast, really? Oh.
he's like, oh
Well,
yeah,
it's sort of there. I mean, like the idea is that there's a consciousness that is invading. It's an alien consciousness, and it sees through our eyes. So, hence the beast with a million eyes, because there are millions of eyes on the planet.
That was one thing I didn't really like about the Attack of the Crab Monsters, was that they didn't really attack all that much. There was kind of like this psychic thing going on where they were like talking to the people through their minds and using the voices of, and it was just like, I don't know. I wanted I wanted there to be more like monstery, like, but the funny
yeah.
thing was that whenever they did attack, there was this ridiculous sound, which is like, what is that even like an amplification of a sound a crab would make? Like, it was fun, but I wanted more attacking in it, but oh well.
I think that's part of the low budgetness of these films is they had to be creative because they couldn't afford a lot of
Yeah.
crabs. You
And
know?
even when there were attacks, it was just like the arm coming in from the side of the screen.
Right.
But they looked like they were made out of paper mache. It was really funny.
Yeah. So that's one of them. Some of the other ones include Did the Day the World Ended from 55.
That was very good. I watched that.
Is that the one with Peter Graves? No, It Conquered the World is Peter Graves.
There is a guy in it, like a young blonde guy who I've seen in other things, but I couldn't tell you what. And I don't know. I mean, I wasn't really paying attention to the names, but
what was it
actually
about?
two guys in it. It was about basically after there had been a nuclear war, and this guy and his daughter welcome a bunch of people into their house to try to survive. And it turns out that there's people out there becoming mutated to varying degrees, and then they start having to defend themselves against them and stuff. And there's one guy really likes the young girl, but the young girl is supposed to marry the blonde guy, and there's all kinds of like stuff
It's
from
a
there.
really scary movie, I think, don't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And that one, even though the monster looked a little cheesy, I liked it. I thought the design was very cool, and I was willing to like go with it and suspend my disbelief because it was, I thought it worked really well.
I'm gonna have to watch that again because I don't remember that one at all.
There
I
are a
wish I
lot
could
of
remember what else that
apocalyptic
guy was.
movies like that came out around that period, like Terror in the Year 5000.
Yep.
A couple of things, and they're all, each and every one of them, they're sort of terrifying, especially because they're so it's you don't think that there are movies that depict the apocalypse that are that old, but it goes back all the way to the silent era.
Yeah.
So they just weren't, I guess they weren't doing it as much as you see now.
Yeah. Yeah. So Michael, just to answer your question. So Richard Denning was in The Day the World Ended. He was You may remember him from he was one of the main guys in Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh yes.
And Mike Connors played Richard Denning played Rick. Mike Connors played Tony in that movie, and he of course,
Tony.
would go on to play Mannix on TV.
That's why he looks so familiar.
Mannix.
Right.
Dun, 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 dun. I love that theme.
He was such an asshole in this movie. It was really like it was really comical. At one point in this movie, he picks up his girlfriend who's like irritating him and like throws her off a cliff. And there was like a a shot of a dummy obviously falling down and bouncing around and falling into the bottom of the cliff. But by that point, I was really suspending my disbelief, so I just went with it. But it was pretty funny because he just lifted her up. Like there's no way he could be that strong. He like lifted her up above his head and like drew her off the cliff. But the guy, I had to ask you a question, Roger. Let's see, which movie was it? Attack of the Crab Monsters. I think the guy that played the professor on Gilligan's Island was in that.
I think it was Russell Johnson. I'll double check, but I am pretty
Yeah.
sure.
I was looking at him and I was like, that's the professor.
It is.
I'll never forget when the Mystery Science Theater movie, they did This Island Earth, and when Russell Johnson shows up, one of the hosts goes, "What's this and the rest crap?" Oh, I said you that.
Yeah, you did.
The professor could build a radio out of a coconut, but couldn't fix a hole in the boat.
Yeah, right.
Well, the same goes for today. They can fix a spacecraft Voyager 1, which is what, 15 billion miles away, yet the printer right across from me, I can't get to fucking work. So, I don't see, no, Richard Cutting kind of looks like Russell Johnson.
Oh, okay.
But he's not listed at least on IMDb for Attack of the Crab Monsters.
Yeah, he's in it.
Is he?
Is he?
I'm pretty sure.
There he is. It's right on the top here. That's weird. It wasn't there before. Okay. Cool.
They were hiding it from you. I really need to shave.
There's Not of This Earth.
Oh my God, right? I'm thinking the same thing.
I didn't know about Not of This Earth until it was remade with Tracy Lords.
I want to see. Oh, that's why I've heard.
Want to check it out now. There's a
right?
Tracy Lords.
Yeah.
Oh.
The Undead.
She's actually, she's actually a really good actress. She's not like as bad, like as people make it out to be, just because she's got her start in the adult side of things. Like she's really, really, really a good actress.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. It's not like, she's gonna take on a role like Meryl Streep or anything. She has a type that she plays, but it's more about with any actor, it's about how much do you like looking at this person and hearing this person talk. I think she's really interesting. I like the way she projects herself. And I just had this like brief glimpse of her on Facebook earlier this week. It's funny you would bring up Tracy Lords, because she had an album out in the late 90s called 1,000 Fires, and it was a techno album, and she had all these techno producers that worked with her, and one of the production teams that she worked with was Tom Bailey and Alana Curry, who were formerly of the Thompson Twins. And they had already discontinued the Thompson Twins at this point. They had a band called Babel. They were sort of like a chill out trip hop kind of thing. And they were producing stuff with Tracy Lords. And I was following a Babel page on Facebook, and the admin like posted this post about her, like, where is she now? Like, whatever happened to Tracy Lords? Because she had worked with them, and he wrote a little brief piece about it, and it drew Tracy Lords to the post. And she commented a couple of times, but the really funny thing was that like someone that didn't know she was looking at the post made a comment, and they're like, yeah, she went to my high school, but she kind of disappeared after all that like seedy stuff she did on video. And she commented, and then she was like, you judge me, but you don't know me.
Wow.
That's really sad. I was like, ooh, sick burn from Tracy Lords.
So, Bill, what's the Undead from 57? Refresh me on the plot of that because I can't recall if I've seen it.
Isn't that the Western? It's like a horror Western, The
Oh,
Undead.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's about a gunfighter who's a vampire.
Oh, wow. Oh, that sounds like something we should cover.
Does.
Cool. Now, War of the Satellites, I'm familiar with, but that was an Italian film, right? That he brought over here,
Yeah, I think so.
New World. Might have been Antonio Margheriti directed that one.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. And then Teenage Caveman. That's another one that was always on TV, but I don't know. I have a hard time getting through that one too.
Isn't that considered like one of the worst movies ever made? That's one of those movies that gets picked on a lot, like
really?
Robot Monster.
Or
Oh, it's a
Ega.
terrible movie, usually by people who have never seen it. Call it
And the
that.
title alone is kind of cheeseball. So
Yeah, I gotta agree.
like,
Now,
although I do like Robot Monster, that sounds good
if
to
if
me.
you're thinking of titles alone, and we're not talking about Corman here, I think we should also add to our future list. I Was a Teenage Werewolf, Teenage Frankenstein, and how Monster Maker, I think, was the third one, right, Bill?
Mm.
Yeah.
How to Make a Monster.
How to Make a Monster. That's right.
I'm a teenage Frankenstein.
That movie is amazing. Like, I'm really into those teenage monster movies from AIP because there was this weird, like, gay subtext to it.
Really?
It's essential for queer cinema because it was like, it's true. It was using that and like this growing awareness of queer people, and it was using it as sort of like a distasteful horror element in it, which is really kind of gross. But it was just there was always some predatory older person that develops this strange same-sex relationship with a young person in it.
Huh.
And How to Make a Monster, it happens in Teenage Werewolf and Teenage Frankenstein, but then How to Make a Monster is a meta film, and it's about the people who made I Was a Teenage Werewolf and I Was a Teenage Frankenstein.
Right.
And it's about how American International Pictures, the studio who actually made the film, is changing their direction. They're not going to do horror films anymore. They're going to do beach movies. So this monster makeup creator goes on a rampage, and he like hypnotizes the actors who play the teenage werewolf and the teenage Frankenstein, and like does things to them while they're hypnotized and turns them into these monsters for real.
Oh my God.
It's really amazing. I love How to Make a Monster a lot. Highly
Amazing.
recommend it.
We've also mentioned, of course, Little Shop of Horrors from 1960, as well as Last Woman on Earth from that year. And his first film was Creature from the Haunted Sea from 61. That's actually surprisingly good. That was the one that I always remember thinking it was bad, but on rewatch, it's actually really enjoyable.
I like that one. And there's a song in it too called Creature from the Haunted Sea.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up.
I really want to know, and I know Roger's heard me say this before, but why has nobody ever done a remake of Creature from the Black Lagoon? I mean, it would be so easy to update because it sucks.
No, they've tried.
Yeah.
Oh, they've tried?
Something about the rights or something. I think
I
John
was just gonna
Carpenter was
say that.
attached at one point. And Guillermo del Toro was going to make it, and for whatever reason the studio put the kibosh. Because he wanted to make it more of a love story between the creature and the woman, and the studio wouldn't do it, and so he made what's that one,
Shape of Water.
Shape of Water.
Yeah, and went on to win an Academy Award.
Yeah, see,
I didn't think that movie
I didn't
was
like
all that
Shape
good.
of Water.
I didn't like it either.
Yeah,
I thought the creature was interesting, but I didn't like the movie.
It's actually a remake of Splash.
Yeah, essentially.
That's interesting.
Well, at least Splash was sexy.
I love Splash. I like The Shape of Water too.
I saw Splash.
Shape of Water was rough.
Shape of Water had moments, but I don't know. I'm sorry, Dantas, go ahead.
It was just rough. I didn't like the alluding to the creature having sex with the mute. and you know, the sexual references with the eggs and shit. It was just
Yeah.
it
And
was
her pleasuring herself in the bathtub, which I
oh
didn't need
my
to see.
God, Eliza, come on out that tub.
It could happen. It was a true story.
Isn't her
Okay.
name Eliza, Bill?
I don't remember.
It was
Eliza.
it's a documentary. And the events unfolded in real time.
So funny.
So, Bill, wasn't there nudity in the Wasp Woman? Or am I thinking of
Wasp woman.
No, I love the Wasp Woman. There's no nudity in it, though. At least I don't think so.
maybe I'm thinking of the Attack of the Bee Women or something, or Invasion of the Bee Girls?
They said something in that
Oh,
documentary about how he made some booby movies, titty movies.
Invasion of the Bee Girls is full of nudity,
Maybe that's
but
one.
I don't think that's a Corman film.
No, I don't think so either.
I love Invasion of the Bee Girls. I'm a huge fan. There's
Invasion of
the Queen Bee Girl in that movie, Anitra Ford. She has this fabulous 70s apartment, and one of the things she has in it is this mirror that's all these domes. It looks like a honeycomb. And I saw that mirror for sale online last week, and I was like, oh my
wow.
God, it's her mirror.
Oh my God,
And
you gotta get it.
it was like $6,000.
Oh.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's like beyond a lot.
God,
Who would pay that much for it? I don't know.
that's crazy. Yeah, well, I think I told you we're getting a house and it's got this wicked 70s motif, and trying to look up 70s furniture online, they're in the thousands and or
Mhm.
hundreds.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
There's so much demand nowadays.
And
Yeah.
all that shit probably came from thrift shops.
Yeah.
Like in the 80s when nobody wanted that stuff.
Right.
Sit on it
Exactly.
for 20 years and sell it for thousands.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got a lot of the Poe ones, the Tomb of Lygia and Tales of Terror was I think it was 3 short Poe stories in that one. That
Yeah.
also had Price, Laurie, and was Karloff in that? I think Karloff was in that.
I don't remember. It's tough to keep it all straight. There were so many of them.
I know.
Yeah.
We should mention that Basil Rathbone was in a few of those movies.
Hmm.
Of course, was famous for playing Sherlock Holmes back in the 40s and 50s.
Mm.
To me, he's still the quintessential Sherlock Holmes, even though he's different from the book. It's like, and of course, it's up to the 19th.
Yeah.
I love those. I used to stay up till 2 in the morning to watch those on TV.
When you were 7 years old. Like Roger's staying up until midnight and going out to rated R drive-ins began at a young age.
Well, yeah, that
God.
began too. But no, I think probably more like 8 or 9. I was allowed to stay up. Like it would be on a Friday or a Saturday night.
Oh, yeah.
And then it just
Not
got
a school
when I
day.
was in high school. Yeah, I would just stay up. I watched, Charlie Chan and then Sherlock Holmes, and then I'd get up early on a Sunday and watch the Abbott and Costello or Laurel and Hardy movie. It's 7 a.m. I'm still that way. I just
Yeah, that's awesome.
just don't sleep. So
I gotta say, oh, go ahead.
well, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say about the Pit and the Pendulum. Like I've read the Poe story, and I understand that they had to add a lot of stuff to make it into a movie. They had to like give it a plot and like what led up to that and stuff. But I don't know. I was a little disappointed in it because the pendulum, the pit and the pendulum, that like actually the device itself is only in the movie for like 10 minutes, and I kind of was, you know, as much as the other part of the story was interesting, I was like, I kind of wish, since that was the title of the movie, I wish there had been a little bit more of like the Inquisition guys using it as a torture confession device, and it was fine that it was in the movie, but I was like, come on, like put it in there more somehow. But
Well, it's like Jason Takes Manhattan. Yeah, in
Oh,
last 10
wow.
minutes.
right, yeah, exactly.
Low blow there.
So I was just want to say what Jack Nicholson said about Corman. There's nobody in there that he didn't, in the most important way, support. He was my lifeblood to whatever I thought I was going to be as a person, and I hope he knows that this is not all hot air. I'm going to cry now. Wow,
Hmm.
that's awesome. Yeah, because he was in the Terror, but he was in the Raven with Peter Lorre, I think, and he, of course, he was in Little Shop of Horrors. Was he the guy that, like, the Steve Martin character in the remake? He was the
Yeah.
patient that loved pain or something.
Enjoyed
Yeah.
pain. Yeah.
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 He went to the dentist and he wanted to. Yeah. And it's funny because originally I thought it was the masochistic, I mean, the sadistic dentist who went after the masochistic uh patient, but in reality it was Seymour who was pretending to be the dentist at that
Right.
time in the story. And yeah, that's pretty funny.
Seymour.
Birdman,
So
I'm
Francis.
Stalin. I don't care.
Oh
That
my
was
god.
great though. I thought like at the end, like he just climbs into the plant with a knife in his hand, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, I'll feed you like you've never been fed before." And I was like, "Oh my God, he's going in there to kill the thing," but it didn't work. He got eaten. Didn't work.
That used to make me scared. Do you remember when you go to Woolworths and they would sell like Mexican jumping beans and Venus flytraps?
Oh
Yeah,
wow, I remember those.
And I would see those in the store and I would be totally creeped out because of this movie.
yeah.
Mexican jumping beans.
You remember
Yeah,
them?
they would even could
You were
they would
freaked out by
even
that?
No, the Venus flytraps.
I
What were you gonna
remember
say, Dantes?
things too. I just thought it was so weird that they would even sell you like this little like plastic aquarium, like the beans were just gonna, you know, bounce all over the place. And I was so always disappointed.
I
Well,
got
the
those.
thing inside of it that made it move was a little larva. So if the
Mm,
larva was dead, then the beans
Yeah.
weren't gonna jump.
Yeah. I got those for my daughter one time, and yeah, they turned out they're like these worms inside or whatever, caterpillars, and they spread their webs and they're like trying to get out, flipping
Hmm.
around.
Oh my God.
Took the whole
I
magic.
remember my dad bringing home Venus flytraps at times.
Yeah.
He was like, "Look at this plant; it eats bugs." I'm like, really? Yeah, go get some bugs. And we were like feeding bugs to it, and that was when I found out that ants could bite. I didn't
yes.
know they could bite because they weren't like, oh, it's not like a bee where you got to be worried that it's going to sting you. But I picked an ant up and was bringing it up to put it in the fly trap, and it bit me like right on the tip of my finger where all the nerve endings are. It hurt like a mother. I was like so shocked that that ant had bitten me. I didn't know they could bite. And
It
then
was
I think
about to be fed to a plant. What did you
I
expect it
know.
to do?
So it defended itself, and I think it worked. I think I dropped him, and he ran away.
That's
So
amazing. That's like something out of Land of the Giants.
yeah. Uh,
Oh my God. So Francis Ford Coppola said about Corman, Roger Corman exploited all of the young people who worked for him, but he really gave you responsibility and opportunity. So it was kind of a fair deal.
uh, you know, that's what directors do, isn't it, to some degree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'll give you a chance to do this, but I'm also gonna use what you're good at and to make my product better.
Well, yeah, that's what happened with Ron Howard. He's like, I'll be in the sequel
Yeah.
to, well, I forget which one it was, the Hot Rod or whatever. And
Hmm.
he's like, yeah, I'll be in the sequel, but oh, Grand Theft Auto, I think.
Grand Theft Auto.
But no, did Ron Howard direct that? I'm getting confused. Anyways, he was in one of those car movies, and
Yeah.
he said, yes, I'll be in the sequel, but and I'll take the same pay because usually if an actor goes to a sequel, they get more money. He said, in lieu of that pay, I want to direct. And Corman's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And then history was made.
Rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. So Robert De Niro, who was in Bloody Mama, said about working with Corman, I spent lunchtime in a grave during the filming of Bloody Mama. When you're younger, you feel that's what you need to do to help you stay in character. When you get older, you become more confident and less intense about it, and you can achieve the same effect. So that's cool. Stallone said, when we did Death Race 2000 in 2.5 weeks, it shows you it could be done. It was the only unofficial college of the arts where you got to learn filmmaking for free by a master. If I hadn't done those parts, I probably wouldn't be here today. He provided a forum for a lot of us to grow. We were the seeds and he owned the farm. That's a great line.
Season he owned the.
If you've ever seen the movie Squirm from
Mm.
1976 about the killer worms,
Yeah.
there's a character in there that ends up with worms crawling into his face.
Oh,
and that's that character. Sylvester Stallone lobbied hard for that role. He didn't get it, but
Really?
it was set in Georgia, and Sylvester Stallone, like, went to the town and was like hanging out with people that lived there, like, just to get the local flavor for his audition. And sadly,
oh
he did not get
wow.
hired.
That's funny. Didn't we cover that when we covered like Slither and a
I'm
couple other?
sure, yeah, we talked about it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't assume everyone has seen every episode of Fright
Slippity
Lounge.
slimy things.
No, I'm just trying to remember if we covered it, but yeah, I think we did because that's a great movie.
Squishy, splooshy, slippity
James
slimies.
Cameron said, I entered Battle Beyond the Stars as a junior model builder and ended up 3 months later as a production designer, which could only happen on a Roger Corman production.
Yeah, right. Seriously.
Really, really, really helped a lot of people get their start.
I
Really,
believe
man.
his first film was he directed Piranha 2, and he's like has disassociated himself from the movie.
I thought that was James. Didn't James Cameron say he directed Piranha 2?
That's what I'm saying.
Or
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
oh, you were talking about James Cameron. Well, I blanked. I didn't catch that you said that.
James
Sorry.
Cameron made Piranha 2 for a director named Video Asonitis, who made a sequel, a Jaws ripoff called Tentacles. And he did an Exorcist ripoff called Beyond the Door. And Piranha 2 was like, his returning to the killer fish thing. And he got James Cameron to direct the movie, but then after shooting wrapped, a Video Asonitis wouldn't let James Cameron edit the film. He just took the footage. He's like, okay, you're done. Bye. So
Uh,
James Cameron like broke into the film lab and edited his own version of Piranha 2. I think you can actually, like, there's a Blu-ray for Piranha 2, and it has two cuts of the film on it. I'm not sure what the difference is, but one of them might be James Cameron's original
wow.
director's cut
That's
of
That's
awesome.
awesome.
it's a
Yeah, that
terrible
doesn't sound
movie.
like something. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it. I mean, I like it because I like trash movies, but Piranha, which I mentioned earlier, directed by Joe Dante and produced by Roger Corman. It's an amazing film. It's just amazing. Like, it's obviously a Jaws ripoff as well, and Spielberg is notorious about crashing down on people that try and rip off Jaws. Like, he kicked Great White out of theaters in 1981 because it was an Italian movie that was basically
Yes,
a
I heard
total
that.
copy of Jaws, and he got
Wow.
them in a whole bunch of trouble. But Piranha, he just let that one slide, and I think he contacted somebody and said, like, I'm not going to sue you because I like the movie. I think it's a really good movie,
Oh
so
wow.
I'm
Huh.
not gonna I won't prosecute you.
That's
Huh.
funny. Didn't around the same time, what was it Killer Fish with Lee Majors?
And Karen Black,
Karen Black, yeah. Where they're like diamond thieves or something and they have to go through
something.
piranha infested water. That's a really good one. I remember seeing Great White in the theater, and it's funny how my parents and I often lucked out like that. And Silent Night, Deadly Night, we managed to see without even knowing it was going to get pulled a week later, you know?
Oh wow.
So that's
I didn't
cool.
know anything about Great White, but there's been so many shark movies over the years, and it's
Oh, yeah.
like every time I see that it's
Too
a
many.
shark movie, I go, "How did they avoid making this like a ripoff of Jaws?" You know, um,
Deep Blue Sea does a good job of not being a
Deep
Jaws
Blue
rip.
Sea does a good job, yeah. But it's funny because in a lot of them, like there's even another one called The Shallows that I really like. But in it seems like in almost all of them, the shark has like a particular vendetta against a certain person or group of people, and they just keep coming back to eat that one person. Those specific people. It's like, okay, there's another one that just came out on online, I think, called No Way Up, and it's about a
Yeah,
plane that crashes in the middle of the ocean and it sinks, but there's like a pocket of air at the top of the cabin or whatever, and the people are trying to figure out how to get out, and then there's like a shark that realizes there's people in there to eat, and it actually looks kind of cool. I don't know if it's lame or not, but
That's
looks
awesome.
kind of cool.
That's cool.
Looks
So,
kind of cool.
just want to move on a little bit more. Martin Scorsese said about working with Corman, I think I got paid to scale, but it didn't matter because basically you were getting the chance to learn how to make a film. when you think about everyone who went through that University of Corman, it's a remarkable impact he's had on American cinema. And there's a lot of filmmakers out there who refer to it as that, the university. Yeah, I went to the University of Corman. I think even Ron Howard says that. Can you speak to that at all, Bill?
Mm.
I think that pretty much sums it up right there, is that it was somebody, I refer to it, I didn't invent it, maverick filmmaking. It's like, you're not necessarily going through a studio. A lot of these were just movies that were developed very quickly, and they were just intended to make money. There weren't a lot of passion projects involved here. And it was just like learning the business, learning how to getting to that point where you are able to helm a film is daunting in the first place. But then, like, to actually be able to bring that project to a close and deliver a movie and deliver a quality product that the person who paid you is able to use and release to theaters. I mean, that's a remarkable achievement, no matter how the movie turns out. And to be able to actually see that all the way through to fruition that's a really big challenge. So these people were just learning, all these talents were being molded by working on these Corman projects.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he did things like, he was telling this story about how it's kind of a famous story. They were filming and it became night, and his crew basically informed him that they didn't have enough lighting. And so he's like, okay, well, bring in your cars and use your headlights. And I guess the cinematographer in the film had won an Academy Award previously, and he was out there coordinating all the cars and setting up the lights. And
Wow,
crazy.
that's incredible.
And what's his book? He's got an autobiography. It's like How I Made $1 Million in Hollywood and Never Lost a Dime, I think is the title of his book.
Huh.
And he would shoot these movies in 10 days or less, and up until he started doing color films on like no budgets, and they were just so creative on how they did things.
Yeah, I think Little Shop of Horrors had the record for the fastest. He turned around that movie. Like, I think he shot it in 2 days, 3 days.
Wow.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, James Horner, who I mentioned earlier, he did the music, the soundtrack for Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and Aliens and Titanic. He said, what working for Roger did for me was it helped my procedural skills, how to produce music for literally nothing, and how to write the best music for the films that they were. Which that's super cool,
Yeah, he's done tons of. Whenever I see his name at the beginning of a movie, for having done the score, I'm always like, ooh, yeah, because he's does such a good job.
Yeah. David Carradine said, with Boxcar Bertha, Martin Scorsese was under the gun of Roger Corman and Sam Arkoff, so he never got to do what he wanted. I became his champion. I would stand up to these guys and say, "Fuck you, man! I'm walking," to get Marty what he wanted. That's cool.
The only thing Marty didn't learn from Roger Corman was how to make a movie a reasonable length.
Yeah.
All his movies are like 3.5 hours. It's like, come on, Marty, come on, work with me here. I can make it.
Did he do Gangs of New York?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, I only saw that in the theater, but that left an impression on me. That was such an awesome, violent movie.
Yeah.
That again. Of course,
that was
Dante, we talked about, who did The Howling. He says, we had a famous exploding helicopter shot from one of those Filipino productions that we cut in every time a trailer was too dull, because that was always exciting. And I forget who else, if you can remind me, Bill, was that was their job for quite a while. They were cutting trailers for Corman, especially when he was bringing those foreign films over, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of those directors did that, like Joe Dante. I think that was Joe Dante that made a lot of those.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a series, Trailers from Hell, if you've ever watched it on YouTube.
And he plays his old trailers there?
Yeah, well, no, they just talk about over trailers, but I mean, like, that's sort of like, where you learn that aspect of the business, the marketing, the editing, to put together a trailer, because and that's important. A trailer is very important because you're selling the movie to people that are already ostensibly sitting in a theater. So they might come pay to see your movie too if you engage them well enough, and you only have a couple minutes to do it.
Right. Right. So, what else do we want to say about Roger Corman? Is there anything anybody wants to mention?
Mm, somebody on that excuse me, somebody on that documentary, I know I keep referring to it, but I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Said that like without Corman, you wouldn't have American cinema as it is today. Like I think I don't know. I think it's not that like he was like this pioneer groundbreaker for every single thing, but there were a lot of things that he just went ahead and put into his movies because he thought it made sense for the story, or he wanted to show it because it was exciting or whatever. And those movies did well, and then it became, like more and more of a thing as time went on. Like even, even if you go just from like monster movies and things like that, of course there were, he did a whole bunch of other genres, but I think there's plenty of monster movies, nowadays, and have been for decades, that took a cue from his, formulas, and we're also able to succeed to some degree because of that. Instead of another director might have been like, we don't need to show that, let's leave that out, and then people saying, no, 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 put it in, because Corman would have, and.
That's so true.
Hmm.
It's yeah. I mean, he mentored all these guys, and I think James Cameron called it the Roger Corman Film School.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, University of Roger Corman, but um, he's just his ability to stretch a dollar and
Yeah.
super creative with something. It shows, reusing sets. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's just
Some of the scripts he worked with were pretty good too. Like I was surprised at how good the day the world ended. Um, I was surprised that script was actually good. It was like
yeah.
while I was watching it, I was like, this is actually good. Like I'm actually interested in the characters and what's going to happen, and it's not just like schlock.
It was kind of like that with The Last Woman on Earth. It was like the characters are what kind of kept you through it, because it's the basically the world. All of a sudden, there's no oxygen, but these three people, two men and a woman, and once she's married to one of them, were scuba diving. So then they come up and realize there's no air, so they keep their tanks on, and then eventually the air comes back. They realize it being in the jungle is producing enough oxygen that they could survive without it. But it was an interesting story. I think it needed a little something more, a little more pep. It kind of
Mm,
got down to basic, almost soap opera drama. But I do love it. I do like that movie. I was the first time watch for me. I hadn't seen that one before.
mm.
So, all right, folks. Well, that I think wraps up. Unless Dante has any last words for about Roger Corman.
I don't know if he's still there or if he had to.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh,
Yeah, we're dealing with some storms here, so I'm preparing myself. But one of the things I want to say about Roger Corman, just from this past week, I thought I knew who he was, but that McDonald's comment that I made at the beginning of the show is really true. He's and like almost an institution. He's been along with all of these famous actors. And then too, these films, they're also films that are continuing to, reach new eyes just because they are so good. And I think the reason why, I don't know, one of the reasons why I can't speak for everybody, but one of the reasons why I was gravitated towards him is just because he just had this ethos that I'm just gonna do shit my way, and I'm gonna do it my way, and he did it that way until he died in May,
Yeah.
and I don't think there has been anyone as fundamental to, and I just hate putting him in that horror category, but I mean he really has helped inspire millions and millions and millions and millions of people. And I would be lying if, I said that I didn't see that and, some of the films that I grew up watching. So he's definitely an important person. And if there was an unsung for, film directors, he would definitely fucking be in it. I mean, he's touched everything.
Yeah.
When you talk about influential people in Hollywood, uh, I don't know. I don't think the average person would mention Roger Corman. They'd probably say Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Because like Steven Spielberg, go read his IMDb page. It tells you how amazing Steven Spielberg is and how he changed cinema. Yeah, I guess, but I mean, like I think Roger Corman is who Steven Spielberg wishes he
Wishes he
was.
could be. Yeah, totally. Oh my God, that's so funny that you say that because we were having a discussion about like how he has a great film every decade or so. Like
Who, Steven
literally, like one great
Spielberg?
film a decade. And I
Yeah.
thought about that and I'm like, fuck, you guys are right.
Spielberg?
Yeah. Yeah. He
One a decade?
like one or two big films a decade. And then after that, like he's just not as consistent,
Oh,
as
I got you. I
I
got you.
think since the 1990s, maybe.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because up to that point, he had a string of hits right from the late 70s through
Yeah.
into the 90s.
Like back
For
to
the
Yeah.
back, like,
80s.
yeah.
Yeah. But
I
yeah,
mean,
there was
a time when he
definitely
could
a point. Oh, go ahead.
well, there was just a time when he could do no wrong, and then he did wrong. So that's all that happened.
Oh
It
God,
just
there's
sort
so
of,
much wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think what's the one with Liam Neeson, the World War II
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List?
Schindler's
Which
List.
is a phenomenal movie, and I could never watch it again. But I think that was like
That was great.
a turning point in his career because, at least from my perspective, because it seemed like he was turning more towards these arty character pieces rather than the showy action pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's not to say they're not good movies, but they're not
I think
quite.
a lot of directors do that. They kind of do like the crowd pleaser stuff for a while, and then they start getting a little older and they start thinking, "Oh, do I want to make something that has a more of a message to it or whatnot?"
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's why I like Quentin Tarantino's approach to filmmaking. He's like, I'm only going to make 10 movies because, and I think he cited Dario Argento, who's continuing to make movies into his, 80s, and his last few movies have not been that good. And he's like, I don't want to be that guy. It's like, I want to
Yeah.
control my final film, make it as good as I can make it, and then walk away with a win,
Yeah.
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 What
So-
was his
He has-
most recent one?
Argento?
Hateful Eight?
Is it really?
No.
Oh,
Oh,
Tarantino.
Hollywood with Brad Pitt there. What do you-
Once
Oh,
Upon a
right,
Time in
right.
Hollywood.
Once Upon a
Was
Time in
that supposed to be his last one?
No, he's got one more.
One
He
more.
originally announced it and then he changed it and said he's not doing that one anymore. It was about a movie critic or something.
Huh.
But yeah, if you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's really good. It's bizarre,
Yeah, that was good.
but it's so enjoyable because it
I
just
watched it twice actually. It was good.
yeah. It's just funny how they play with history and kind of do their own thing with it. But
Yeah. It's such escapist fun because like it's really what if you lived through the whole Manson thing or even like the aftermath of the Manson murders in the 70s when, that's what everybody wishes would have happened to the Manson family. And like everyone's like, why
Yeah.
didn't they? These were just a bunch of freaked out hippie kids living in the desert. I mean, why could nobody stop them before it was too late? And
Right.
it happened so quickly that I guess the really bad stuff happened quickly. So they were stopped very quickly. But not like they were in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So it's great.
Yeah.
the thing about that was for me watching it, knowing the history of the Manson family, I was like, oh God, it kept getting, I'm like, oh man, oh, this is not going to be good. This is not. And then it totally turned a corner and you're like, what?
Yeah.
the
You're
fuck?
like,
Oh my
yeah. Finally, someone does the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
and I thought Pitt and DiCaprio were just so much fun in that movie.
Yeah.
Like
and
DiCaprio was the aging actor losing his confidence and stuff.
Yeah. And up until the Manson stuff, it's basically a true story. It's loosely based on the real Ray Dalton, Roy Dalton. Forget what the character's name was.
Mm.
Yeah, he was a real person.
Yeah, he was an
Yeah.
actor who was a star on a Western TV show, and then after a while, he became a movie star, and then his career went down. So he went to Europe and became a huge star over there.
Mm.
It was an interesting tale. So,
Hmm.
all right, folks. Well, thank you for joining us about our discussion concerning, or our tribute, I should say, to Roger Corman, the late legendary director. We highly advise you to seek out his films. You've got, just go right to IMDb and just go down the list. There's so many good ones.
Pick some titles that jump out at you.
Yeah, yeah. Especially, especially in his Poe period around there, he's got a great eye for visuals, for great shots, and for creating atmosphere, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, that's the thing. No matter what the subject matter was of the movies I watched, it always kept me interested because of the way it was filmed,
Mm.
for sure.
Wild Angels is like that. It's kind of a biker film. Well, I mean, it is a biker film, but it's kind of one of those ones that doesn't really have a plot per se, but it
Mhm.
works. For some reason, you're just captivated by the whole movie, So yeah, so all right, cool, folks. Well, thank you for joining us. And don't forget to check out havenpodcasts.com, which you can see at the bottom of the screen here. We've got all kinds of news and ads and all my blogs and shows and everything. A lot of fun stuff going on over there. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube page. Hit that little bell at the top so you can get all of our videos when they come up. And like us on Twitter. We want to grow our Twitter following as well as our Facebook page. So if you could hit a like over there and you get the discussion going on any of those three platforms, you can still leave comments under our old videos. We'll find them and we'll read them online. So, Bill, where can the folks find you online?
Oh, you can purchase the fanzine at the Groovy Doom Etsy shop. Just search Drive-In Asylum online and you'll be able to find it. There's a new issue in the works. It's the 1980 yearbook. It's a special.
Yes.
And Rigor may have a piece in there already. He very kindly laid it out ahead of time, just like I said earlier. So this is amazing. And also Saturday nights, I do a live stream called the Drive-In Asylum Double Feature or Late Movie, depending on when it's on. Check the Groovy Doom Facebook page for further details.
Awesome. How about you, Dantes?
Instagram.com/Dantes Alexander, Facebook.com/Dantes Alexander me, or you could just go to Spotify for all of my music.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, folks, and join us again next month on Fright Lounge.